Hello, my name is Cyclones Oz, and we are back again tracking a Mauritius cyclone threat over here with the tropical low starting to spin itself up quite nicely. And let me tell you, this cyclone could get very, very strong indeed as it heads for Mauritius. We're talking category 3 or beyond, an intense tropical cyclone expected down there. We're also tracking 3, possibly 4 other tropical cyclones across Australia and the Southwest Indian Ocean. A lot to get through in this video, so please do make sure you stick around to the end to get the latest, and also leave a like on the video while you're at it and tell me how I can improve in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing, because we'd love to hit 6,000 subscribers and I want your company, that's for sure. So now, looking at the Western Australia Northern Territory tropical cyclone situation first, before later on we take a look at the Mauritius cyclone situation, you can see already thunderstorm activity really building across the Northern Territory, streaming into the Gulf of Carpentaria, and that's when we're going to see, that's what we're going to see from these tropical cyclones. That's when we're going to see tropical cyclone genesis, and these thunderstorms here are definitely those precursor storms to those tropical cyclones. We're going to take a look at those in depth right now. The first one is tropical low 03U, which is located towards the west of Darwin. And if I go back to our starting time and take a look at the Access G3 model, you can see it takes it till about Sunday for it to really start to spin itself up. And it spins itself up south of Daly River, becomes a tropical cyclone very briefly by the looks of things on Monday. However, that might not even qualify as a tropical cyclone as per the Bureau of Meteorology's gale force wind rule, where 3 out of the 4 tropical cyclone quadrants have to contain gales, which I think is a bit of a silly rule, considering that this, in terms of maximum wind speeds, is a fully fledged tropical cyclone here. And then, believe it or not, it intensifies as it heads south towards the Northern Territory border, even though it is overland, and it is it is well and truly overland. It has no direct access to the ocean. It intensifies, and it intensifies in a dramatic way. Let me tell you, 980 millibars is its lowest intensity, and that is way inland in terms of parallel to Wave Hill actually. And you're talking about this cyclone being 300 kilometers away from the nearest significant body of water. Now, how is this going to happen? Well, it's because of the brown ocean effect. The storm is going to be dropping so much rainfall, in some places over 100 millimeters an hour. And in fact, in more places, it could be even higher than that. And let me tell you, more than 2 meters of rain is possible from this cyclone, so it's a very concerning cyclone in terms of maximum rainfall. However, the brown ocean effect is when this cyclone drops so much rainfall that it opens up sort of like these inland seas, and the thunderstorms are able to fire over those inland seas. And that's how the cyclone is able to maintain its intensity, by firing new convection over the rainfall that it's already dropped. So think of it as kind of like a positive feedback loop. And basically the only place in the world that it can happen is across the Northern Territory in Western Australia, which is very cool, I believe. It can also happen across Florida, but it's very hard to see examples of that because of the cyclones or the hurricanes there. They're more rapid motion, whereas here they're generally more slow moving. And especially in the case of this cyclone, it's going to be very slow moving, let me tell you. And that's what's going to drive rainfall totals through the roof. You can see here a lot of areas expecting more than 400 millimeters of rain. Darwin itself expecting up to a meter's worth of rainfall, so very, very high rainfall totals there. And then along the coastline, there's just going to be a lot of locations with more than a meter, in some places 2 meters worth of rainfall, because of this onshore flow that's going to persist for days. And this is where places can be picking up 300 millimeters for a week straight. Every single day. And that's concerning indeed, because these rivers here, they will flood, and they will flood in a dramatic style. Let me tell you, on this sort of rainfall, up to 2,700 millimeters down here. Actually, in fact, 1 or 2 spots might be tickling 2,800 millimeters. That is more than 3 years worth of rainfall for some locations down here. Ridiculous quantities of rainfall. If those were to get themselves within river catchments, you're going to be seeing historic flooding, once in a lifetime flooding. Very, very concerning stuff indeed. And the only saving grace here is the fact that the Access G3 model can be notoriously unreliable when talking about just rainfall accumulation, which is good news indeed. However, it was bang on with Tropical Cyclone Jasper predicting 2.2 meters of rainfall initially, and that's exactly what we got in some places. So I wouldn't completely discount the model right now, but it's definitely possible that a significant amount of rainfall does fall from this tropical cyclone in some locations. Now that's enough on 03U. We're going to take a look at this Coral Sea cyclone here very briefly, which is long-term a cyclone threat to Queensland at this stage. I'd give it maybe a 10% chance of impacting Queensland at some point in its lifetime. You can see it's still a cyclone as it approaches Cairns here. A relatively strong one as well, category 1, maybe category 2 status, so it could still be bringing damaging winds ashore as it makes its landfall. Wind gusts could be approaching sort of that 50 knot threshold. However, it doesn't look like it's going to be a very wet tropical cyclone. And just taking a look at this rainfall map, it definitely looks like it'll be on its last legs as it approaches Cairns and Queensland. And then the cyclone over here, before we take a look at the southwest Indian Ocean, you can see this one gets relatively strong as well as it passes through the Cocos Keeling Islands as maybe even a category 3 strength system. But once again, as it gets towards the Australian continent, it dies off completely and is no threat to land. But that is enough yapping about Australia. Let's go and take a look at the southwest Indian Ocean now, because this is where the heat is happening. Mauritius copying a direct hit from what looks to be a category 2 strength tropical cyclone on the Saffir-Simpson scale. You're probably looking at an intense tropical cyclone at this point. On the GFS side of things, they're calling for a stronger system, but to pass towards the east of this island at least. But yeah, this is getting very short term now, so the forecast is getting more and more certain. And I mean, looking at that pressure, 952 millibars at peak. I know the GFS can underestimate pressures quite dramatically, or winds quite dramatically. So taking a look at that pressure, you're looking at something approaching that very intense tropical cyclone threshold as it passes by Mauritius. So a very, very strong tropical cyclone, and any wobbles in the track or any change in the location that this cyclone is meant to form will be bringing the absolute worst conditions ashore for Mauritius. So yeah, it's a concerning forecast indeed. Rainfall as well, going to be a concerning factor, up to 300 millimeters for Mauritius, and also on Reunion as well, up to 300 millimeters in some of the wettest parts of the world in terms of how much rainfall can fall during tropical cyclones. So we'll be watching out in terms of rainfall for the flooding situation there. Right now, it's a clear picture over Mauritius at this time, but you can see the thunderstorm activity really heating up south of the Seychelles here towards the direct northeast of Madagascar. This is a lot more thunderstorm activity than we were dealing with yesterday, and this just tells me that this cyclone is ready to go. It's ready to rumble, and it's only a matter of time until these thunderclouds get themselves spinning and get themselves ready for tropical cyclone genesis, and then we'll see our big tropical cyclone that we've been talking about. If it does form, it'll get the name of Belal. There's another system behind it which could form and impact the northwestern parts of Madagascar. That could get the name of Candace. So the next two names for the southwest Indian Ocean are Belal and Candace. But this cyclone here, it's got my attention, it's got a lot of attention around the world, because it is expected to become very strong as it passes Mauritius. Conditions are looking very good for this tropical cyclone. Peak sea surface temperatures as it approaches 29 degrees Celsius. That is fuel for a category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, a very strong, very intense tropical cyclone. And where it's forming right now, 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. I mean, this is just bath water. This is just very, very warm waters, maybe 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above average. A very, very concerning forecast indeed, that's for sure. And it's not going to cool down until the storm gets well past Mauritius or Reunion. So I'm predicting the worst here in terms of the cyclone impact for Mauritius. This could be a very, very strong and a very, very concerning tropical cyclone as it makes landfall. That's for sure. At least a category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, is just looking at these forecasts right now. So very, very strong cyclone indeed. And yeah, very good model consensus from a lot of the forecast models as well, which means that there's a lot of certainty in terms of how strong this system could get and where this system is going to be tracking. So be watching this forecast very closely. Stay tuned to the Cyclones Odds channel, because we'll be bringing you the latest as well. And if you did enjoy this video, please do consider subscribing, because your support really does mean a lot, and leave a like while you're at it. But that's all for me, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Bye-bye.